Well, as part of our Perseverance Rock special here on Third Rock, we had to get somebody on that really knows what he's talking about. He works for NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He's also an author. He's worked on a ton of NASA missions, and he's got killer hair. I mean, look at that do, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about our guest today. It is Adam Steltzner. Adam, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm very well. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, well, the Perseverance launch is slated for July 30th. Now, you are the chief engineer for this mission, correct?
That's correct.
Wow. I mean, I'm sure the list is long, but what are your duties as chief engineer for this project, in a nutshell?
In a nutshell, it's to ensure the technical performance and success of the mission.
Yeah?
Just that.
I mean, but I'm sure, are you overseeing just about every nook and cranny for the project, or is it?
Well, of course. So this project's got, at the peak of our burn rate, we were more than 1,000 heads working. So I don't have enough thumbs to have my thumb in every pie.
Right.
But we've got a very talented team, but we work in sort of a distributed leadership fashion, and in the end, I've got to sort of make sure it all works.
No pressure on you whatsoever.
Yes.
Now, is it excitement during this time? Is it nervousness, or is it you just ready for it to be done with so you can have some time to relax? What is the emotion?
Right now we are. It's kind of a nice time for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
The spacecraft is fueled, it's powered, it's ready to go. Our little rover.
Right.
It's on top of our rocket, an Atlas 541, and we're 6 days away from our launch. So we just are right now as I speak. I stepped away from a dress rehearsal for the launch. We are doing the launch largely virtually. You know, that would normally we would all be sitting in a couple of rooms, one big room in Florida and one big room in Pasadena, California, all huddled together for the launch. As the fates send us, that's not how we're doing it today. We will still have a group of people, but a much smaller group of people. Only the people that must be there operationally will be in Florida and at JPL. And then the rest of us will be either in other facilities on lab or from our homes using telecommunication to get this bird off. So right now we are waiting. We are waiting for our moment. We are anticipating that everything looks good.
Yeah.
For next Thursday, the 30th of July.
All right. Now, that was one question I wanted to ask. With the pandemic and quarantining, obviously this has affected getting ready for the launch, like you just mentioned. But what has it changed? Did it ever change the course of the mission, or in terms of preparation and whatnot? Has it been hard to adjust with?
It certainly has been hard to adjust. As everybody who's listening to your show knows, right?
Yeah.
This is not normal.
No.
This is not a party, right? This is not. Us humans are made to see each other face to face.
Right.
Some handshakes, and so especially this time of the mission is challenging to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we've identified all of our risks when we're doing it in this virtual way. That said, we've held our launch date. Our launch date was originally the 17th of July. It's now moved to the 30th, but that move has really been for a couple of issues that that our rocket provider had with the rocket, not the bit on top, which is what we build, the spacecraft that's going to Mars. So we moved from the 17th to the 30th because of some assembly snafus with our rocket, but we have held the preparedness of our rover going to Mars, even though we have been laboring under this pandemic rules right now.
That's very impressive. I mean, you would think that there would be some roadblocks, but it looks like you guys just followed marching orders and you're carrying on. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if the pandemic had broke 3 months earlier, it probably would be an entirely different affair and we might not be making it. But we were close enough that we could grunt through the final bits under these set of quarantine, work from home restrictions.
Awesome. Well, now you worked, excuse me, you worked with the Mars Curiosity launch and landing. And if people haven't seen it, I had the chance to watch the video that you're in called 7 Minutes of Terror, the challenges of getting to Mars. And that was fascinating. So people, if you haven't seen it, you got to check it out. But what are some of the major differences between Curiosity and Perseverance? I mean, Curiosity was 8 years ago. It's still going strong. But I mean, with the except there's the helicopter for Perseverance and whatnot. Is there anything else that just separates the two?
So although the two spacecraft, Curiosity and Perseverance, look very similar,
Right?
The rovers from far away. Perseverance is a little tiny bit bigger, not this much bigger, and it is packed full of a very different suite of instruments and a very different job to do when it gets to the surface of Mars. Curiosity was there really to follow its curiosity, to root around and figure stuff out about
just find things. Would you
find things, figure things out? That was very instrumental in helping us understand a lot better. The next big jump in science understanding is going to come when we bring samples from Mars back to Earth, and that's what Perseverance is all about. So we've got a set of science instruments and a sampling system on board.
Mm-hmm.
And we are charged with finding at least between 20 and 40 samples to carefully seal hermetically in these special cylinders and have them present for return to Earth by a follow-on mission. So we've got a very different set of requirements. Our rover's a little bigger, a little heavier, a little bit more complicated. We are bringing with us a small little friend, a helicopter named Ingenuity that rides underneath our belly.
Yeah.
And we will deploy early in the mission and test flight on another planet with very, very little atmosphere. So it's a big challenge. So the mission requirements are very different, even though the rovers look quite similar.
Okay, and I need your expertise on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard that if, the launch obviously next week, the 30th, if for some reason the launch had to be scrubbed, we couldn't try this again for several months. Is there a window or?
It's worse. Yeah, Steve, it's worse than that. It's 2 years. Two years.
Oh, wow.
26 months, because of the way that Mars and Earth go around the sun. You can only try every 26 months. So if we hadn't made it, we'd be doing it in 2022. So we are very happy that we made it to the pad and that we're ready to go.
Okay, because I had heard that, but I heard it was a few months, but then 2 years. 2
years.
We got to make this thing fly next Thursday.
We do. Yes, absolutely.
We're being joined by Adam Steltzner, and I love your backstory. You were a kid. You were finishing high school, you went off to college, but you really hadn't found your way yet. You just got not very much ambition, if you will. You were in bands. You played bass. Band names. Do you remember band names?
Oh, sure. Stick Figures, Exit, Frank X and the Difference. I mean, a whole bunch of different ones. I was not a good student in high school. I was not a good student in college. I went to music school for a while. I, left that, and I was just playing rock and roll around the Bay Area, kind of hoping to become the next Elvis Costello.
Nice.
And and then one night coming home from playing a gig, I saw the stars. I saw the constellation of Orion, and I noticed that it was in a different place in the night sky than I had been when I went out to play the show. And I had paid so little attention in high school that I didn't remember the whole Earth spinning on its axis thing. And so I was like, my mind was blown that the stars were moving. And I went back down to the local community college to take an astronomy course to tell me why the stars were moving. And one thing led to another, and here I am.
I mean, look at you now. So there's hope for all of us. I mean, come on. That's great.
Yeah, there was a little bit of elbow grease and blood, sweat, and tears there.
Oh man!
Between and now, but yeah, I did make a big change in the direction of my life.
That's great. Well, now the Perseverance rover is scheduled to land in February of next year. It takes 7 months to get to Mars. What would you say is first on the agenda for the rover? Obviously, making the landing, everything is checked off. It's ready to roll. What's the first thing it's going to be starting to work on?
The first thing we're going to do is we're going to deploy that beautiful helicopter of ours.
Okay.
Ingenuity. It sits underneath our belly. We'd like to get it off of there so the belly's nice and clean. We have a little bit better, easier time to rove around Mars. We'll spend the first month or two flying the helicopter, getting it ready, flying it, doing a set of flights. And once we've really wrung out all the value of that experiment, we'll move on and look to start sampling, finding and taking samples of Martian rocky material, core samples, drilling these intact cores, look like the size and shape of a piece of chalk.
Mm-hmm.
Back from the days when people used chalk on chalk parts, but at any rate, so that's what we'll start doing. And then that mission is a Mars year. Well, it's about 600 to 1,000 days, Earth days long mission. So let's call it a year and a half on Earth, 2 years, as we acquire more samples to try and make a stockpile of samples that's ready to come, that's valuable enough to be returned home to Earth.
That's what I was going to ask you. Now, you mentioned the samples and getting them back to Earth. Is there a time you're looking for to get those back, or is it just depends on what you find? Or,
well, if all goes as we hope it will, we will have them back in like 2030. 2031. I know it's not a game for the impatient.
I'm writing it on my calendar now. 2030.
Yeah, jot that down. January 17th, 2031. Don't make any other plans. No, it's returning them will be in our current plan. Returning them involves a partnership with the European Space Agency,
right?
European orbiter. And so, it takes a while to get there. It takes a while to get back. It takes a while to build the spacecraft that are going to go and get the stuff and bring it back. And so all of that takes time. And so I would think in the early 2030s,
okay,
we will have those samples back here. Let's say in 12, 13 years, something like that. We'll have them back here in our hot little hands and be able to maybe unlock some deep mysteries about the history of Mars and perhaps whether Mars ever had life. We know that from our previous missions that Mars was wet and habitable for life,
right,
back at the time where life started here on Earth.
Wow.
And so it's a tantalizing possibility that could have started perhaps on both planets at the same time.
Wow.
And so we'll be putting that to the test by looking for ancient signs of life or signs of ancient life in the samples when they return.
Well, it's all exciting now. So if your band doesn't have a gig that night in 2031,
right.
You'll be busy looking at the samples.
We've been working the schedule, and I've got somebody to sub in on the bass if that actually happens to be a problem.
Well, man, we're very excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. The launch, of course, Perseverance is happening on July 30th, and joining us is the Perseverance chief engineer, the big cheese, the head honcho. It is Adam Steltzner. Adam, thanks for your time here on Third Rock Radio.
Well, thanks very much, Steve, for having me. I enjoyed it. Thank you.